Good morning. This is Tom, and this is Tom's Radio Room Show. And I got a copy of the brand new WRTH World Radio TV Handbook for 2016. This was sent to me by one of my subscribers who wishes to remain anonymous, and I thank him for sending me this book and some other ones that I'm going to review. So we're going to take a look at this brand new version of this book. And if you're not familiar with this book, the bulk of the book, like 90%, is information about radio broadcast, both national broadcast and international broadcast, including medium wave, shortwave, and TV. And it's just a ton of information. It tells you about the frequencies, something about the station itself, how to contact the station if you want to send them a reception report, a little bit of history about some of the stations, just tons of information. And that is, like I say, the bulk of the book. And these are very good reference books. I've gotten many over the years. Been very fortunate that one of my subscribers has sent me the last couple years worth. And we're going to review the 2016 version. This is the 70th anniversary, and they've kind of did a great job, of being at the 70th anniversary. And there even is a rumor, and that's all it is right now, is a rumor that this might be the last year. So I guess it will depend on what kind of response they get. And that's kind of why I believe they went out of their way to make this a super issue. So I'm going to briefly go over this. I know it's going to be a little difficult to see with my camera set up. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. Maybe that'll help a little bit. I've turned off my autofocus so that doesn't drive us crazy, because every time I would turn the page, the thing with autofocus. I was just noticing also, I went to max resolution, on my camera, which I normally don't use, and I saw a little delay there when I was moving my hand. But we're going to give it a try. If it turns out the video is too bad, we'll go down to 720p and do it over. Geez, I hate to do videos over, but invariably I do. Okay, let's just open it up. And there's an editorial. Oh, it'd be nice if I knew how to talk. And the other thing is, they have a lot of advertisement, and this is really glossy, high quality paper and printing, so you can get a good idea what some radios look like. And like I say, here's the editorial. Then they talk a little bit about the contributors, all the many people that helped put this publication together. And then I call the first article, I don't consider those first two an article, is the receiver review, and this is for 2016, meaning newer radios. And then I think later on there's an article about older radios. And I'm just going to touch on what they're reviewing. Here is the C. Crane CC Skywave radio. I did a review of this on one of my previous shows. Pretty cool little radio. They have a lot of information, and they tell you what their conclusion is, or whether it's a good radio or not. I won't spoil it by telling you what their conclusion was. And then the next one is a radio, boy, I would love to review, but these are pretty expensive, is the AOR AR-DV1. And it says right here, the retail price in US dollars is $1,220. A little bit out of my price range. Maybe if you move the decimal point one, I might be able to afford it. But this is a very modern, up-to-date radio. And I've had AOR radios in the past, used of course, and they've always had fabulous radios, and this is probably no exception. And again, they go over it and give you a conclusion of what they think. And I'll just tell you what the overall rating is. is 4 stars out of 5. So they like the radio. The next one is another radio that I reviewed. Let me see if I can get this in a picture a little better. Is the newer Eaton Satellite Grundig Edition. And I did a review of this. I wasn't really impressed. I was impressed. It's a pretty good radio, but since it had the name Satellite, and you can go see my review, I was expecting it to be like the previous satellite versions of their radios, the Grundig radios. This is a Eaton radio now. They took over Grundig. So I kind of have a mediocre review of this in that I wasn't really excited, kind of disappointed. They really liked it. You can read what their conclusion was and why they liked it. Here's a new radio that came out last year. It's a Texan. It's easy for me to say. It's the Texan PL680. I have not gotten my hands on this one. It's still not available on Amazon, which is where I usually get most of my radios. The beauty of Amazon, if you have a problem with any of their products that's sold through them, not third-party stuff, you just get on the website, say you want to return it. They give you a shipping label, so you don't have to pay shipping to return it. And boom, you take it down to the UPS store, whatever. And as soon as the UPS store registers it, you get an email back from Amazon that says, we've credited your account. Now, of course, if they don't get it, in other words, you send them an empty box, then they're going to take that credit away. So I've had to return a number of things where I was buying, the cheapo under $20 radios, and they were just a piece of junk, and it was so easy to return it. So anyway, they don't have that yet. You can get this from Universal Radio. I've heard good things about Universal Radio, so I may, it's been out for 3 months now, and I may just have to get one from Universal. So that's that one. The next thing, they divert and review this NTI ML200 Mega Loop Antenna. It's a loop antenna. So that's the last new thing they reviewed. Here is the WRTH. I don't know if you see it. Well, you can't see it. Trust me, I know my camera's not doing a good job. HF receiver guide for 2016. It's kind of a composite guide of various radios that are available. It tells you several things about the radio in a very concise table. So that's that. The next article is a brief history of World Radio TV Handbook, and tells you about the various issues of the handbook over the years and its history of how it started. And there's the latest one. Like I say, I have several of these, not that many, maybe a half a dozen of these that I've gotten over the year. There's a ad for that new AOR radio. And the next article is the UK medium wave and long wave broadcasting, the first 95 years. And it gives you a history of the UK's broadcasting system. There's some pictures of the old transmitters. Pretty interesting article. The next one is 70 years of reception. And this kind of goes back into some of the old radios. Here's an RCA AR88. I've never had one of these, but this looks very similar to radios I've had, old radios I've had. Here is a Eddystone 840A. Again, I've not had one of those. Tells you a little about that one. Here's another one, another Eddystone. Here's a Barlow Wadley. None of these I've ever had. See if they have any. Oh yeah, I've had this one. This is the Kenwood R1000. I wish I had never sold this. I actually had two over the years. The first one I had a drift problem. It would drift really bad. The second one I had, which I replaced that first one, worked perfect. And I sold the darn thing. It was a neat little radio, compact. Just had a lot of nice features. I'm sorry I ever sold it. Here's a Drake R8. I never had one of those. Here's a modern computer. It's a card that you put in your computer radio. It's by Wind Radio. Fairly expensive. I think that's about $1,500, that radio. And that's the radios they review. The next article is Radio in Timor-Leste. And that didn't strike a bell for me, so I haven't read that article. So I don't know too much about that article. I'm going to pass on. Going right along. And here's an article by Thomas Witherspoon. I've seen a lot of his reviews on the internet of radios. He does an excellent job of reviewing radios. And this is his article, The Future of Shortwave, and he kind of tells you what he thinks is going to happen to shortwave, and it's being impacted by the internet, or maybe not impacted by the internet. I don't really think it's impacted by the internet. I think shortwave, listening to your own radio, trying to get that distant station, I think that's the hobby. And listen to an international station on the internet where it's like perfect, not as exciting for me. Okay. And then here's a nice article that I haven't read in detail. I've glanced over it. It's a guide to SDRs, software-defined radios, that's where a lot of people are going, is to these software-defined radios. Both the $20 dongle and the multi-$1,000 radios. And he gives you a lot of information for both the person that really doesn't know anything about these and the person has some experience with this. A very good article, I would say, for newbies who are beginning into this or thinking about getting into this. It gives you a lot of information. And here's a table that he has, of course you can't see on my camera, of all the things that are available. And it includes the retail price. And I go down here, there's a lot of these that are in foreign currency. Here's one, the Wind Radio, which is, this is, if I could find it again. That one ad I showed you, a real glossy ad. Okay, this is, that's not it. Oh well, the Wind Radio is typically, or used to be, a card that you put in your PC. Now they've got some standalones, but they're still considered software-defined radios because you control them with your computer. Well, this one here, the G39 Excalibur, is $4,700. So you can go from a $20 dongle to almost $5,000 radio. So that's some interesting news. And then the last section, which is what they've had in almost every issue, is this HF broadcasting reception conditions expected for the latest year, in this case 2016. And they have some verbiage that tells you what they expect, and then they have this table you can look up for what they expect. And I think the gist I got from this article was things are going to deteriorate some. If you look at the sunspots cycle, here's it. I don't think you see it, but you can see that we're on a downward trend now. We peaked back in like September of last year, and typically overall HF reception goes down when the sunspot numbers go down. That's just typical. Now, you can always have the exception, and you could have, a week of great reception and totally defy these predictions and everything. So it's always interesting to read that. And then we have the maps that show you the major stations, international broadcast stations, several pages of this. And I always kind of go back and get one of my older books and I compare these maps, and you see how many stations are gone. Sorry, say that, but they're gone. You got many, many pages of maps. And then we get into the actual data. Like I say, there's like almost 700 pages. This book is almost 700 pages. Very fine print, so there's a lot of data here, and it's all very useful. So I would definitely suggest that if you don't have, number one, if you don't have one of these, you get one. And this, like I say, there is a rumor this might be the last one, and definitely it appears that they've, gone out of their way to make this a really special issue. So I want to thank the person that sent me this so that I could review it, and I would suggest that you get one. So if you enjoyed this show, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. Now I'll have to check to see if the audio came out okay. The video came out okay. Bye-bye.